Welcome back to our weekly newsletter on the economy, where we bring you the latest updates on business and economic trends. Today, I will take you on a journey through this week's newsletter. To receive our weekly newsletter and stay informed on the latest economic developments, simply follow our website in the description below. Our first story comes from the recent annual conference of central bankers in Jackson Hole. There, concerns were raised about the increasing challenges of controlling global inflation pressures in the coming years. Factors such as rising trade barriers, aging populations, and the transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy could all exacerbate these pressures, making it tougher for central bankers, including the Federal Reserve, to meet their inflation targets. Moving on to our second update, we have got news on OECD GDP growth. According to the provisional estimates, GDP in the OECD rose by 0.4% quarter-on-quarter in the second quarter of 2023. While this shows growth, it's a slight dip from the 0.5% growth observed in the previous quarter, continuing a trend of moderate growth since early 2022. Now let's turn our attention to Australia's economic snapshot. Financial stress has led to a decline in household spending, particularly in discretionary areas. On the flip side, the energy sector saw a significant 12% growth. However, wages struggled to keep up with inflation, creating a complex economic landscape in the country. In Turkey, there has been a noteworthy development in inflation. While the consumer price index increased by 9.9% on a monthly basis in August, the annual inflation rate surged from 47.83% to 58.94%. This is a significant shift that's worth keeping an eye on. Next, let's talk about Moody's revised growth forecast for the Turkish economy. They raised their estimate for 2023, expecting a 4.2% GDP increase, up from the previous 2.6% projection. Looking ahead to 2024, they anticipate a 3% expansion, showing signs of improvement. However, they do not note concerns about inflation and global financial conditions affecting Turkey's overall economic growth. A quick look at Canada, where mobile payments and e-commerce purchases are on the rise. Mobile debit payments in physical stores have surged by 53%, and e-commerce sales have been a 17% increase. This shift is driven by Generation Z's preference for contactless payment methods, with 78% of them using smartphones for their purchases. In fact, over 1 billion mobile debit and in-app transactions occurred in just 1 year. Turning our attention to Europe, Euro area unemployment in July 2023 stood at 6.4%, while in the broader European Union it was slightly lower at 5.9%. These figures provide insights into the labor market conditions in the region. Shifting our focus to China, the industrial sector faced significant challenges. Profits for Chinese industrial firms dropped by 6.7% in July, marking the 7th consecutive month of decline. This prolonged slump is primarily due to weak demand, impacting companies as China's post-pandemic recovery faced hurdles. In the United Kingdom, the financial burden of high interest rates is taking a toll. It's projected that around 7,000 business insolvencies per quarter will occur in 2024, driven by rising interest rates. In the second quarter, over 6,700 business insolvencies were reported, double the pandemic period's average, signaling financial strain for many businesses, especially those that borrowed during the pandemic. Germany, a key player in global trade, saw a mixed performance in July. While exports declined by 0.9%, imports increased by 1.4%, impacting the trade surplus, which stood at 15.9 billion euros. These figures offer insights into Germany's trade dynamics. In the United States, August brought a mixed jobs report. Job growth accelerated, but the unemployment rate rose to 3.8%. Additionally, wage gains moderated, indicating a potential easing in labor market conditions. These developments are closely monitored in the light of their potential impact on Federal Reserve decisions. In Georgia, the Consumer Price Index showed a 0.7% increase in August compared to the previous month, with an annual inflation rate of 0.9%. Romania experienced a unique economic development as producer prices fell for the first time in almost 3 years. This shift in pricing dynamics is noteworthy for the country's economic landscape. Let's talk about the EU car market, which witnessed a remarkable growth in July. New car registration increased by 15.2%, with battery electric cars capturing a significant 13.6% market share. This growth trend has persisted for 12 consecutive months, reflecting changing consumer preferences and market dynamics. In August, Belgium's business confidence remained stable, accompanied by a slight easing of credit conditions. Although the overall business climate held steady, there were sector-specific variations. Notably, the trade sector reported improved confidence and heightened expectations for demand and orders from suppliers. Industrial producer prices saw a decline in the euro area and the EU. In July, compared to June, these prices decreased by 0.5% in the euro area and by 0.6% in the EU. Particularly, intermediate goods experienced a 1.2% drop, while the energy sector saw a 0.9% decrease. Italy faced economic challenges in July. The month saw a 0.3% decline in economic activity, while unemployment increased by 1.9%. However, the inactivity rate remained stable during this period. The OECD experienced a rise in year-on-year inflation in July, reaching 5.9%. This increase, the first since October 2022, was primarily fueled by substantial inflation in Turkey. Excluding Turkey, OECD inflation remained relatively stable. Among the 38 OECD nations, 26 saw a decline in inflation, with 17 of them experiencing a decrease of more than 0.5 percentage points. Turkey is grappling with a severe labor shortage. Even for semi-skilled or unskilled workers, this scarcity is impacting companies despite significant investments in facilities. The wage disparities between the public and private sectors are a contributing factor, as public sector jobs offer higher pay. The labor shortage process poses challenges to Turkey's production potential. Global manufacturing continues to face a downturn, as indicated by the J.P. Morgan Global Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index for August, which remains below 50, indicating contraction. While production losses are modest, declining new orders are a significant concern, mainly due to the global trade downturn. Although inventory cycles may provide some support to production in the near term, risks persist. Regional variations show Asia outperforming, with India and China experiencing growth. The United Kingdom saw a notable shift in business activity during August. Service providers experienced a downturn, marking the first decline since January. Weaker spending from both businesses and consumers, higher borrowing costs affecting climate demand, and a lack of new projects contributed to this decline. Backlogs also saw their fastest rate of decline in over 3 years. Despite higher wages leading to increased expenses, input price inflation hit its lowest point since May 2021. In Greece, there was a surge in company registrations in the second quarter, with a remarkable increase of 6.1%. However, this growth followed a 21.4% drop from the previous quarter, indicating a dynamic business environment in the country. The FAO Food Price Index showed signs of recovery in July. It averaged 123.9 points, reflecting a 1.3% increase from June. However, it remained 11.8% below its value for the same month in the previous year. This rebound in the FFFPI was driven by a solid rise in the vegetable oils price index. Additionally, there were slight decreases in the price indices for the cereals, dairy, and meat. The IMF highlighted the persistent threat of money laundering to global financial stability. Criminals exploit the interconnected financial system to move illicit funds across borders, posing risks to banks and countries. National anti-money laundering efforts often lag behind the evolving tactics of criminals, and divergent approaches hinder effective global collaboration. The IMF is actively collaborating with Nordic Baltic countries to combat money laundering using machine learning and data analysis tools. The Czech Republic experienced a decline in industrial production, with a notable 2.8% year-on-year drop in July. Additionally, new orders saw a decline of 3%. These figures provide insights into the state of industrial activity in the country. And finally, in Finland, there was a significant development in the trade balance. The country's trade deficit shrunk to 605 million euros in July, primarily driven by a sharp decline in imports, which fell by 24.6%. Exports also saw a decline, albeit at a lower rate of 11.1%. This shift in the trade balance is a noteworthy economic development. That wraps up our economy newsletter for today. We covered a wide range of topics. Stay informed and tuned in for more economic news in our upcoming episodes. Thank you for watching, and remember to subscribe to our channel for the latest updates.